Hello everyone. This is a very special episode, and I am not sure how I'm going to place it in the series. However, just listen. There is no date and time here. There's just my voice and this room. And there is your ears. There is the you that is hearing. Me and you are self-aware beings. We are aware of our environment. We see things. We are capable enough to use our brains to recognize that we are self-aware. Again and again and again and again and again. You see, it's very interesting because some ideas point to a world inspired by nature. And there are those that are artificially put on the counter to become an option in your life. There are many ways you can view yourself, but choose a story and listen to what I'm going to say. There is how would I say it? Well, there is this ideology that is present among crowds which is very destructive. In other words, regardless of people, some ideas people could be speaking about could be destructive, could be the end and the tunnel's demolition. As you become aware of your certainty, there are degrees in how your presence manifests into the alertness you have to the peak thing that you see. In other words, the furthest thing that you can see is actually right here, the closest thing to you. It is as if your awareness is made to recognize itself without identification, without comparison, without dualistic judgment. And therefore, when we explore existential ideas, all I want to say that it's an idea. You're sitting, perhaps on your couch, on the grass, and hearing my voice perhaps through the wind then, but wherever you are sitting and hearing my voice, it is a important thing to recognize where you are and what safety means for you. If you feel you're unsafe and therefore you don't want to act, there's fear involved, there's survival instinct involved, there's animalistic behavior involved. When you see yourself not needing to respond to the past rather than the present, and what I mean by that is, let's assume your past is an experience you never could answer back, and now you always want to answer back. In other words, I'll tell you a very common one. In your past, for me, for example, your past, if I can say this again, keeps you limited to certain behaviors that are becoming a survival mechanism for you mentally. In other words, some ideas that you keep having about your life condition is based on your wanted reaction, your desperate reaction that is like a bubble inside waiting to burst. You see, it needs to be very well put that there's no right and wrongness when there's life here. And regardless how we look through it, through a microscope or a telescope, or even through our glasses here, the lens of life is light. And therefore our existence is light. Our awareness to our existence is light. Therefore there is a scientific bridge of light here based on those theorems and those ideas. We need to understand that creativity is blooming in our culture. And creativity is manifesting in many forms. It's as if this human ability to think and create in very various ways with ideas is evolving. It's like this movement. And let's say if creativity in the mental arena is movement, we want to see if people are aware of such a change, if people understand what the peak of their existence is and has to be, where the ends meet. And if they don't, then there never was an end. I hope in my voice you hear implications that regardless of the story I tell you, I always want you to look at more than the story. I always want you to hear more than my voice. I want you to be aware of those thoughts that are present. I want you to be aware of the origin of those, the origin of everything, the origin of your moment. Sometimes asking the big questions, you realize people went into a lot of hardship because they didn't ask the right question. They had to head back and look again. When I say ask the right questions, I mean be aware. And it's very interesting, and I am learning every day that there's as much communication in the silence as there is when there is no silence. There's just as much meaning and even more, even unspeakable, unseeable meanings that are present through silence and stillness and what that vibe implies. In other words, let's say there are two vibes in existence. Sun's up, we feel warm, our day's beginning, and then our day's ending. Then we go on a tired vibe, right? Now, in these two vibes, people experience different things throughout the day. It is very important for you to be aware of completely what happened through the day. You see, the reason sometimes we have problems is because we're not alert. We're not aware that there's a condition going on which we need to contribute our attention to. How you contribute your attention to suggests how well you listen to someone, how well you actually see them. In other words, if I am sitting here and someone comes and begins opening up and sharing some very deep things with me, I clear my ears. I go into this empty state where all I'm focused to is the attention of the words that are coming out and what they imply. There is beauty and improvement and all that we find to be the greatest vision of humanity all right here. We exist just as we are aware of the darkness when we close our eyes and of the light when we open it. There should be no difference. It's the same eyeball underneath your eyelid. But how is it that darkness has a different meaning and that has another meaning? Because we feel we are expressed out of a machine, an origin, a body, a shape, we are always looking for shapes. But sometimes we look galaxies and away and find that Andromeda is calling back her child, which is the Milky Way, let's say. Existentially, there's this calling of vaster flow. In other words, just as how I'm talking to you and how you're hearing these words, probably energetically some intense fractal amplification of this is happening in regards to the movement of star systems. Our minds are fascinating only with the awareness of where we can use them, where we can think, where we can see beyond our own thinking. When you see beyond your own thinking, you can look at yourself from outside of yourself. And that is truly outside body. That's outside of a mental body. That's a subtle out-of-body experience when you're no longer in your idea and you're just present. It's actually a wakefulness. Right? All out of bodies are wakefulness. They're experiences that teach you the fabrics. In other words, there was a time where I had read a lot about these paths, but only through a dream that was totally a different route did I wake up. Only in my dream was I convinced of the fabric of reality and how it's not all covered in the science textbooks, and even the contents table can't be made because it can't be written down. It's very amazing to see this, to see the fact that there's a natural element of intelligence which is present through the voice that speaks always in the present. And the fact that our selflessness makes us closer to people than our selfishness. When we choose what kind of person we are around people, we can choose to separate. You see, mental survival and social survival are all twisted up. However, regardless of that, we're all the great infinity sign to eternity. symbols and the awareness to the symbol is an infinite expression. In other words, when you look at any symbol in front of you, let's say whatever symbol, bring up a symbol in front of your mind's eye. Just think of a symbol, any symbol you've seen in your life, and literally look at the symbol and think about how symbolic is it that you are observing the symbol. What does that mean? Is that communicatable? Is that can that be verbally managed? How can observance be verbalized when you're not your voice? You're the observer. You're aware of your vocality not being only you. It's as if the awareness that is aware of your presence here is not just limited to stories. It knows it's a greater being. You know how what kind of a being you are, And if you and this is very hard for me to communicate because it brings in other happenings that are happening, but you see, if you work with your intuition and you connect it to the power source and be aware of the power source and the origin of your moment and its fabric and its ability, you cannot remain in your solid ideas. When you see a psychic 6-year-old blind girl playing songs in English or in whatever, or when you see this phenomena of children being born with amazing talent, you see that it's just important to help land that energy on this plane. What does that mean, land that energy? In other words, there are natural things happening on other dimensions which have an influence on ours. However, because we're not aware of it, that transition is not completely usable. In other words, energy is a multidimensional thing, so we can never understand it. We can experience it in many ways. Do you understand this theory? Experientially, we are quantumly, I guess, present. However, regardless of any noise and theory and book or anything that doubted the vision that you have right now, which is the origin of your experience, tell me, how far can you see? Both outside and inside yourself. How far can you see into the peak of your dream? How far have you looked into what it means after death? How long have you looked into different ideas and complexities and simplicities and to understand how they were always all right here? You see, your mind is capable to be much more present and able. And you need to tackle some ideas away to be in that proximity of experiencing your higher sense of being. And what does that mean? In other words, you understand that ideas, words, have been being used for a while. So they have meaning and value and depth. It's as if every person who used the word hello, put his hello in there, It's as if the word hello is simply saying the sound hell. It's why is everyone saying hell? Hello. Wow. That's a very interesting discovery, I guess, why the word hello spells hell with an O, Regardless of that, symbols can trap a man's awareness. You don't want symbology to trap you. And what does that mean? That means you see the intention. Just like any other being, when you are aware, self-aware, you can look into things and see the end. And in the end of all images, there is an emptiness that is a profundity that I cannot explain with words. I'm a pilot, I find myself, who finds himself a man present through the unknown. That which originates from within. What is within? We don't know, because we don't have language and analysis.